Most people think living to 100 is about strict diets, intense workouts, or some kind of perfect routine. Maybe cold plunges, maybe running marathons at 60. But here's the surprising part. A survey of 8,000 people who actually lived past 100 found something very different. These weren't extreme people. They weren't obsessed with optimization. They didn't all follow the same diet. They didn't all follow the same routine. But they did share a few simple habits, quiet ones. And honestly, most people today completely overlook them. This isn't a trend or something someone came up with last year. It comes from patterns observed across thousands of real people who live to 100 and beyond. Long-term surveys, centenarian research, and population studies all pointing in the same direction. And what's interesting is, none of it is complicated. In fact, most of it is surprisingly simple. Almost too simple, which is exactly why most people dismiss it. By the end of this video, you'll know the 7 habits these people had in common. And more importantly, which ones actually matter in real life. No extreme routines, no unrealistic expectations, just patterns that show up again and again in people who live the longest. And stay until the end, because the last habit is the one almost nobody pays attention to, but it quietly affects everything else. Habit number 1, they had a reason to wake up. The first thing researchers noticed, it wasn't diet, it wasn't exercise, it was purpose. And this is where things get interesting. Think about 2 people. Person A retires at 65, hands in the badge, and slowly loses structure. The days blur together. There's nothing pulling them forward. Within a few years, health begins declining, not just from age, but from something deeper switching off. Person B also retires, but she teaches kids in her neighborhood to read. She tends a garden. Her grandchildren call every Sunday, and she never misses it. She is needed, and she knows it. The difference isn't genetics or luck, it's meaning. Studies on long-lived populations consistently show that a strong sense of purpose is connected to better physical and mental health outcomes over time. The Japanese have a word for it, ikigai, a reason for being. When you have a reason to live, your body doesn't just survive, it adapts to keep you going. Your action step. You don't need a grand purpose. Find a small one, someone to help, something to teach, something to care for. Start there and let it grow. Habit number 2, they stayed mentally positive. Now this next one might sound simple, but it has a deeper impact than most people realize. These people weren't free from hardship. They lost loved ones. They faced poverty, illness, loss, things many of us haven't had to carry. But what set them apart was how they responded. Think of 2 people facing the same kind of loss. A job, a relationship, someone they loved. Person A becomes bitter. They replay the pain every single day. They carry it in their body like a stone. Over years, that bitterness reshapes their health, disrupting sleep, weakening immunity, raising inflammation. Person B grieves, honestly and fully. But then they adapt. They find something to be grateful for. They look forward, not just backward. Your thoughts don't just stay in your mind. They show up in your body over time. Chronic negative thinking keeps your stress response activated, which accelerates cellular aging. Gratitude and an adaptable mindset, on the other hand, are consistently associated with better long-term health in the research. And over decades, that difference becomes visible. Your action step. Try a simple daily gratitude practice. 3 things, every morning or evening. It sounds almost too easy, but done consistently, it genuinely begins to shift how your brain processes everyday life. If you're still watching, drop 100 in the comments below. I'd love to know you're here with me. Habit number 3, they practiced moderation in eating. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. These centenarians weren't on any special diet. Many of them ate bread, rice, wine, foods we've been told to fear. They weren't tracking macros or cutting food groups. The problem wasn't what they ate, it was how much and how mindlessly. Picture two people at dinner. Person A eats until the plate is empty, then reaches for more out of habit. It's not even hunger, it's just routine. Over decades, this quietly strains the body, fuels inflammation, and accelerates aging in ways that aren't obvious day to day. Person B eats slowly. She savors each bite, and she stops when she feels roughly 80% full. A practice actually called Hara Hachibu in Okinawa, one of the longest living regions ever studied. They didn't eat until full, they ate until satisfied. And that distinction, practiced every single day for decades, quietly shapes your health in ways that compound over time. Your action step: try the 80% rule at your next meal. Eat slower. Pause before going back for more. Let your body catch up. It becomes a habit. And like all habits, it gets easier the more you do it. Habit number 4, they stayed socially connected. This might be one of the strongest patterns researchers found across every long-lived population. Imagine two people in their 70s. Person A moved years ago and never rebuilt a social circle. Days pass without meaningful conversation. Silence becomes the norm. Research shows that chronic loneliness triggers the same physiological stress response as physical danger. It's not just emotionally painful, it's physically harmful. Person B calls her sister every week, has lunch with a neighbor, shows up to her community group every Thursday, not because she has to, but because those connections give her life warmth and texture. Humans aren't built to live in isolation, and over time, the body starts to feel that. Strong social ties are associated with lower inflammation, stronger immune function, better cognitive health, and significantly longer life, not as a theory, but as one of the most replicated findings in longevity research. Loneliness slowly weakens both the mind and the body. Connection does the opposite. Your action step: make one meaningful connection this week. Call someone you've been putting off. Show up somewhere. It doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real. If this is giving you something valuable, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Habit number 5, they move naturally every day. Now this one goes completely against modern fitness culture. Most of these centenarians never stepped inside a gym. They didn't do high-intensity training. They didn't track steps or wear fitness watches. But they moved every single day because their lives required it. They walked to the market. They cooked, gardened, climbed stairs. Movement wasn't something they scheduled. It was woven into the fabric of their daily life. Compare that to someone who sits for 9 hours, drives home, and sits on a couch. Maybe they hit the gym twice a week and feel good about it. But those 2 hours don't cancel out 22 hours of stillness, and that stillness accumulates over years. It's not the workout that matters most. It's how often you move when you're not working out. Consistent, low-intensity movement throughout the day is associated with better health outcomes than occasional intense exercise combined with long periods of sitting. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Your action step: build movement into your day naturally. Walk instead of driving when you can. Take the stairs. Stretch when you wake up. Small, repeated movements, done daily for decades, add up to something significant. Habit number 6, they took sleep seriously. This is where modern life really starts to work against us. Person A works late, scrolls a phone until midnight, wakes up exhausted and repeats the cycle. Over years, chronic poor sleep is linked to weakened immunity, faster cognitive decline, increased inflammation, and a meaningfully higher risk of nearly every major disease. Person B has a rhythm. She sleeps and wakes at roughly the same time every day. She winds down before bed. She treats sleep not as wasted time, but as essential maintenance her body depends on. Sleep isn't just rest, it's repair. And without it, everything else starts to break down. No matter how well you eat or how often you move, your body heals when you sleep, not when you're pushing through, not when you're catching up on a busy week, when you sleep. Your action step. Start with one consistent wake time. Before you fix everything else about your sleep, a fixed wake time anchors your body's internal clock and improves sleep quality over time. That's your foundation. Comment sleep below if this is something you know you need to work on. No judgment. Most of us do. Habit number 7, they maintained inner peace. And finally, this is the one most people ignore, and it might be the most important of all. These people weren't free from stress, but they had something most people don't, a consistent way to come back to calm. Quiet walks, prayer, sitting with tea and doing nothing else, time in nature, reflection. It looked different for each person, but the practice was always there. Compare two people under the same daily pressure. Person A absorbs everything, lies awake running through problems, never fully exhales. The stress response, cortisol, adrenaline, stays switched on day after day. Stress doesn't always show up immediately, but over time, it leaves a mark on the body, on the heart, on immunity, on sleep, on cellular aging. Person B has learned, not perfectly but habitually, to let things go. She has a way back to herself, a daily practice of returning to stillness. Chronic stress silently ages your body, and practiced, consistent calm does the opposite. Learning how to return to calm might be one of the most important long-term skills you can build. Your action step, carve out 10 quiet minutes every day. No input, no screen, just breathing, walking, or sitting. It's not wasted time. For the people who lived the longest, it was essential time. So when you step back and look at all 8,000 of these people, the pattern becomes clear. Purpose, perspective, moderation, connection, movement, rest, inner calm. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated, just consistent. That's what a century of life looked like. Not for one or two people, but for thousands of them, across different countries, different cultures, different decades. The same quiet habits, over and over again. Living longer isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things, consistently over time. And here's the truth most people miss. Most of these habits don't feel important in the moment. 10-minute walk doesn't feel like it's changing your life. Going to bed an hour earlier doesn't feel significant. Calling a friend feels ordinary, but they shape your future quietly, day by day. The choices you make today, the small, boring, consistent ones, are building something, whether you're paying attention to them or not. These 8,000 people weren't extraordinary. They were just consistent. Don't try to change everything at once. That never lasts. Pick one, just one. The habit that stayed in your mind while watching this, the one you kept thinking about. That's the one to start with. Build it slowly. Let it become part of your routine. Then come back. Add another. That's exactly how the people in this survey lived. One small, intentional choice, repeated long enough to become who they were. I'd love to know, which habit are you starting with? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this gave you something valuable today, hit like and subscribe. I'll be sharing more content like this, and I don't want you to miss it. See you in the next one.